I'm Danielle and I'm the founder of The Joyful Edit. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing really well and having a nice Monday. Today I wanted to talk to you about kind of like getting to know your intuition like so much more, because I feel like there's so many clues and inklings and suspicions that we kind of get, and I think we very rarely kind of act on them. And I kind of wanted it to come to the surface so that we can be like the few who actually deal with these things head on, and we are able to change our responses accordingly. Like, I always think it's crazy when you hear these people that got told in advance that, you know, there's going to be a natural disaster and you need to evacuate and take all your belongings and take your family with you, for example. And they don't, they decide to ignore the warnings, and then they're surprised when devastation hits and all their things are ruined or they lose loved ones. And it's just, you know, knowing, sometimes we don't get it as kind of abrupt as that, but we all kind of get signs and these little signals that tell us to act before something sometimes catastrophic kind of happens. And you know, when you just kind of get that feeling, that inkling, like something doesn't quite feel right, or you're not too sure why, but there's something off with this person. And I think sometimes it can be quite hard because we always feel like we need to justify something, or we need to have like tangible results. But sometimes like it is just a feeling. And I think when we have decided to listen to our intuition and our gut, have we ever really been wrong about that? I would definitely say no. Like, but it's just, we need to be able to recognize when when those signs come, like when that happens, and we need to be able to act like accordingly to protect ourselves and to act and, you know, pivot accordingly to protect ourselves. And I remember there was like one time where my friend and I were going around his mum's boyfriend's house, and we went upstairs. This is a bit different, but it's still kind of the same example. And we went upstairs, and it was an old hospital. And we went to the top of the house, and all of a sudden we just looked at each other and ran. It was the most horrendous feeling. I can't even tell you what it was like. It was just awful. And like, we both looked at each other at the same time, and I've never ran so fast in my life. And it's like things like that, we've all had those feelings, and in whatever scenario, and you just know that something feels really off and doesn't feel right. And another example is when I was at Tony Robbins' event. He is someone that always looks for patterns in everything. And when you start to see the patterns, everything makes sense, and you begin to be able to take control and not panic, because you recognize this is just like the seasons of life. This is expected, and you know how to deal with it. So one of those things was, he noticed the pattern with the recession and preempted that a recession was going to happen, and would be talking to all his like friends in high up places, and they would be having these conversations about, you know, not too sure when it's going to happen, but we need to plan accordingly because the market is going to crash and we need to be ready for it. And that's just a case of looking at the patterns, looking at the economy over over the period of time, and you can see all these different things. The same applies to like the flu and like pandemics. That is something that is just part of history and will continue to repeat itself. And he was just saying that as a result of them being in tune with like those signs and having those kind of advanced warnings, because of being able to preempt that and looking back over history, like they were able to protect themselves and make so much more money as a result of being like ahead of the curve. And that's exactly what we need to do. And it's not always just about financial gain, but it is to protect us from, you know, hurt and things that, like, you know, change is always something that happens, and it's one of those things that is a constant. And doesn't it make more sense to be the one that is able to move forward and recognize those telltale signs so you can deal with it accordingly? And there's like internal and external kind of signals. So your internal signals are like the feeling in your stomach, that inkling that you had, that intuition, that fear that you feel inside. And then externally is like, he keeps coming home really late. The client's first check bounced. His mother warned you, his friends warned you. And, you know, let's give us time to change our responses, but too many people ignore them because it requires them to do something that feels uncomfortable. So it is uncomfortable to confront your spouse if they keep coming home late. It is uncomfortable to speak up in a meeting when you feel like that proposed plan isn't going to work. It's uncomfortable to show and tell someone that you don't trust them. So we pretend not to know it, we pretend not to see it, because it's easier, it's more convenient, it keeps the peace, and it protects us from taking the risk. Yet successful people, they will deal with these things head on, despite it being uncomfortable. And they take steps to reach their desired outcomes. Like, they don't just wait for the disasters, okay? So they will plan, prepare, and adapt accordingly. And so they aren't caught off guard. So once you begin to start responding quickly and decisively and start trusting your gut, like, life just becomes so much easier. So I just want to encourage you that when you do get those feelings, don't ignore them and don't pass them off as nothing, because so often that is the universe giving us a sign that we need to act, and we need to kind of act now, and we need to take note because it's a warning for a reason. So I just kind of wanted to raise that so you can be in a situation when it happens that you can act accordingly and move forward despite it sometimes being uncomfortable. And I know sometimes it can be really difficult when it's hard to justify, but we all get these feelings and we know when they come. So now we know when to act on them. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to share that with you today, and I hope you have a really wonderful evening. Thank you so much for watching, for being here. I am sending you so much love and so much blessings, and I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow.